when this kind of article drops, should worry Kathy Engelbert a great deal.
You won't believe what happened to Kathy Engelbert, the WNBA commissioner, because karma suddenly showed up after months of silence during which the players were ignored, the media was avoided, and the referees were allowed to do whatever the heck they wanted. And it brought evidence this time. A shocking report surfaced the day before yesterday. Furthermore, that doesn't simply expose her. She is essentially held accountable for the consequences of Caitlin Clark's injury, as she pulled up during this play with a little limp due to a groin injury, and it's so difficult to witness the emotion alone.
But they are not in this case. In this case, they're calling out the WNBA and Kathy Engelbert.
And if you believe that this is just another social media commotion, you're mistaken. This might be the moment that the league as a whole turns against its commissioner. Right, resign Kathy in the comments section below if you believe it's time for Kathy to sign her resignation. Let's begin by discussing the most well-known player the WNBA has seen in decades. Caitlin Clark was just removed from All-Star competition.
So, Caitlin Clark is officially out for the All-Star game.
Not for relaxation or any other family-related use. Due to a groin injury, no. The right leg. She does, in fact, make a slight jerking gesture to halt her pace, and I must tell, it was a very difficult one. Naturally, the squad and the referees were blamed at that time, but Kathy Engelbert was mostly blamed because, to be honest, this wasn't an unexpected development. For days, this has been developing. Do you recall when Caitlin was being thrown about the court like it was WWE earlier this season? Blind hits, hard screens, and elbows that weren't even whistled but should have been texted. Caitlin Clark was clearly fouled during the first quarter. The referees take no calls. Observe Caitlin Clark as she attempts to make some room. She appeared to have been struck in the eye there, and Marina Maberry, too. That one slipped my mind. Nevertheless, Kathy remained silent during the entire conversation. And since it's the WNBA, people overlook it, don't they? However, now that the league's face is hobbling, things are getting out of control. She's missing the big games lately. Furthermore, this is something that must be overlooked. It was the Washington Post that ignited the internet. Thus, Caitlin Clark did indeed sustain another injury. Naturally, the league became silent once more. Fans had grown weary of shouting into thin air, and players were silently hurt. However, the Washington Post did what the league wouldn't do, just when it seemed like things couldn't get much worse. They were frank and boisterous in their speech. They published a comprehensive report that is more akin to an explosive exposé since, in all honesty, it broke the taboo and rocked the WNBA's basis. Officiating in the WNBA is no longer a hassle. It poses a risk to the game. Just that statement is incisive and terrible. It did contact bone, after all. The words that followed were unadulterated wrath that had been screamed by millions of followers online in bits and pieces until being ultimately pieced together into one agonizing, indisputable truth. In other words, the officials are putting the game in jeopardy in addition to making mistakes. Then the line that caused us all to gasp arrived.
And how bad it is in this league. The WNBA should change its logo to a bruise.
The WNBA ought to use a bruise as their new emblem. It's not even an ingenious metaphor or exaggeration, really. It's a startlingly true depiction of the league's current state. Forget the silhouette of a woman rising shamefully for a shot, they added. Instead, employ Kelsey Plum's or Nafisa Collars as the league's new face, or simply utilize Caitlin Clark's purple, swollen arm. Because bruises are more reliable than calls at this stage.
It was brutally embarrassing for the league.
The Washington Post became frank. We didn't seem to be discussing basketball anymore. We were discussing the players trapped in the crossfire on a battlefield. There was no need for the piece to shout. All it did was speak terrible truths. The league's motto ought to be no call is what follows. Every Caitlin Clark supporter, coach on the sidelines, and young girl witnessing her idol being dropped and disregarded is now plagued by this. Caitlin flinched when JCS Sheldon of the Connecticut Sun kneed her in the abdomen. She flinched. Nevertheless, there was no call, review, or whistle. She had been repeatedly hooked, hammered, and pushed across the court by Dallas defenders just a few nights prior. The referees turned away as if nothing had occurred, but there was still no call. The national broadcast followed, seemingly in an attempt to put the league on trial in front of millions of people. Ryan Ruocco and Rebecca Lobo were unable to remain silent any longer. Happening that a hold is in place. Another grab is coming. I mean, those are all disgusting. Those are all fouls. Every single one of them. And here, that's a foul. That's a foul. And finally, they called that's a foul. That's a foul. That's a foul. Every single one of them. It was the moment everything shifted, because when the commentators start sounding like irate fans, then you're past the tipping point.
By Seehafer's count, there have been 57 head and neck injuries.
But the article didn't stop at outrage. It came proof and data. And that didn't just raise eyebrows, it dropped jaws. Since opening day, the WNBA has experienced 141 injuries. But you know what? There are only 179 current players in the league. Let that sink in. This indicates that in a single season, almost 4 of every 5 players have had an injury. Not just painful shoulders or twisted ankles either. We are discussing concussions, severe knees, back spasms, groin injuries, and brain trauma.
That, not even a single tweet. And for a commissioner who promised to grow the game and protect its future, her silence feels like betrayal.
Even more concerning information was disclosed by the notorious kinesiologist Lucas C. Hafer, who has been monitoring WNBA injuries. He claimed that athletes like Clark, who are guards and small forwards, sustain 100 times as many injuries as big men.
Why?
Due to their increased speed and explosiveness. They work in more confined areas. However, they are now permitted to play in settings so dangerous that even the strongest athletes are breaking. They're being broken by the league. And our very own commissioner is the one witnessing it all. As players sit in traction, Engelbert is showcasing the rigidity of a silk garment. Coaches virtually plead for justice as athletes hobble off the court in tears, for acclaimed rookies in particular. Naturally, though, I want the league to treat Caitlin fairly and appropriately. She looks capable of taking care of herself, in my opinion. She is a fierce competitor. I believe that some individuals who are unfamiliar with basketball might not understand some of the WNBA's problems. Not even one public news conference has been held, and Kathy has remained silent. Don't do that. Not one tweet at all. Her silence also seems betraying to a commissioner who pledged to advance the game and safeguard its future. Because Elisa, Ree, Sabrina, Collier, Kalia, John Quell, and others are involved in addition to Clark.
Caitlin treated fairly and appropriately in the league. I would say seems like she can take care of herself. She's a tough player. I think it may be lost on some people who are new to basketball in terms of a little bit of the controversy in the WNBA.
This season, they have all missed time. They are all victims of a system that tolerates rough play as the standard. This goes beyond simple carelessness. It's a slow-motion crisis. The physicality that teams are permitted to play with adds up, according to coach Stephanie White. It may not shatter them all at once, but it does break them over time. Fans didn't attend the WNBA to see women punished for being exceptional, so perhaps that's the scariest aspect. They weren't there to witness injuries turn into trademarks. They came to watch sports, talent, and greatness. They aren't receiving any, though. It is a crisis function for the WNBA. Thus, while Kathy Angelberg is out here complimenting people on their Valentino heels, her athletes are trading damaged ribs, sprains, and concussions, and it appears that no one in authority cares. Nevertheless, the league continues to deceive us. We can't really blame physicality for the injuries because Reddit isn't buying it anymore. They state very bluntly. They have strong beliefs and don't hesitate to express them. Yes, one individual remarked, we keep hearing that we can't attribute these injuries to physicality because we don't have a hard physical play at the precise moment an injury is identified. As the accumulation of excessive physicality causes more injuries over time, this essay highlights the issue. The joints, ligaments, and muscles in the legs may experience increased stress and strain if you are permitted to continuously obstruct movement with rough play on the guards who are rapidly speeding up, slowing down, changing direction, etc. It's absurd that people are denying this. The league won't acknowledge that. that something will eventually break if a guard is obstructed in her mobility for 40 minutes, pushed when changing directions, and elbows absorbed while running at full speed. Then someone else says something like, 100% Clark is a prime example, which I detest as people tend to ignore it. This is not just a Caitlyn issue. It is a league issue. That's right. Even the mainstream media is now shifting. The Washington Post, which was the WNBA's longtime bulwark, is now criticizing it. But let's face it, injury statistics aren't really important anymore. It should have been sufficient to have 141 injuries in a single season. It all comes down to the message, the stillness following each strike, and how officials ignore whistles as if they were allergic to responsibility. The way that while its stars are hobbling through halftime, the leadership hides behind growth stats. So, yeah, Caitlyn isn't the only issue here. It concerns a league that has turned on its own prospects. It concerns a commissioner who could have protected players, but chose not to. And it has to do with a fan base that is at last conscious. Because you're most likely not watching the same league as the rest of us if you're still justifying the officiating at this point. However, please type "Resign Kathy" in the comment section below if you believe it is time for Kathy to sign her resignation. Don't forget to click the subscribe button for the most recent WNBA drama and controversy. Until the next one, see you.